You guys, alright. Let me be clear on one thing, okay? Let me be genuinely clear. If you clicked on this video thinking that I genuinely have a problem against turn-based RPGs, then you are without a doubt 120% absolutely freaking wrong. Wow, I got your ass there. I baited your ass to click on this video. But trust me, there's a reason in doing this. This is all YouTube stuff. Thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for supporting the content. But hey, listen to what I have to say about turn-based RPGs, because trust me, you won't regret it one bit. Whew, man, who doesn't love being out of their comfort zone every now and then only to get roundhouse kicked in the balls, get your wallet taken away from you in the middle of the day? Because yeah, that's exactly what playing an RPG is like, folks. Look guys, don't ask questions you don't need answers to. The good old RPGs, folks, the true testament of time when it comes down to games not only pushing their boundaries in terms of gameplay and controls, but also putting more focus on story and characters since the dawn of the NES era back in 1986, with the first Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy games to be on that system. Nowadays we see these guys hiding in the corners of our houses and expecting that nice itch or two to be played with and experience what they ultimately have to offer. But that's of course assuming that everyone out there is willing to go through those motions. While RPGs for many people have provided cozy gaming experiences for them, I know that I'm fully aware of the notion that every gamer out there has their own preferences, and this is very true unless you stumble upon Twitter one day to see that one game you like happens to be that one game they hate, with reasons that honestly, if I were to try to explain why, it's like me trying to explain metaphysics or why I was in your mom last night. It's basically impossible is what I'm getting at here. Also, tell your mom I said hi. Regardless of whatever game or franchise is out there, people will have their choices of playing certain games, and in the topic of RPGs, that is of course no different in my opinion, especially since to me this is easily one of my favorite genres besides platformers and action adventure games like Sonic and Uncharted that I can comfortably play and mess around with for a good few hours or so. Of course, as I've already mentioned previously, not everybody is gonna be on the same boat as me, wasting away what is practically 3.5 days total of video game content to explore, interact, and mess around with. Some will have short attention spans, and that's completely okay, which is why we have games like Mario Party or Mario Kart for people to still enjoy and have a good time overall. All the while the virgin chads like me get to throw ourselves in a cave that is our own bedroom and not see the light of day until we make sure we finish cycling through multiple routes and sections in a Pokemon game of all things to get that one shiny with all those EV and IV benefits that you made two Pokemon find out and literally to get it, and trust me, no one wants to really go down that path I just described. Look guys, Pokemon breeding isn't meant for the weak, and if you don't believe that, then try the Masuda method currently with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and then come back to me with the results. Yet what I'm getting at here is that the concept of not wanting to play RPG games, or JRPGs at that, is not something that of recent memory nobody wants to try and dip their toes on. I completely understand the first-hand experience of trying a full-fledged RPG where you're mostly going to be analyzing numbers and reading a shit ton of words and sentences for dialogue and combat, so when ultimately experiencing one, you do end up feeling overwhelmed and utterly confused by it. This has happened to me on occasion with several games like Octopath Traveler and Fire Emblem where, let's be honest here folks, now that we're out here in the open, it's practically anime chess. You just gotta slap some pair of titties onto the board pieces, somehow have romantic relationships with them, and boom! You got yourselves a Fire Emblem game. And yeah, I went there. In today's gaming industry, there are a bunch of standouts within the JRPG or even the RPG genre as a whole that do provide a more direct confrontation and action set pieces as opposed to just reading a menu and hoping you don't get your ass beat within the next 5 turns or so. Recent Final Fantasy entries such as Final Fantasy 15, the 7th remake, and upcoming 16th entry, as well as the Kingdom Hearts and Xenoblade franchises are all perfectly good examples, along with the critically acclaimed Neo The World Ends With You, of being unique RPG experiences where the concept of menus and numbers are still there, as well as numerous dialogue, but now you got full control of your characters in terms of gameplay and combat. And also seriously, play Neo The World Ends With You. Trust me, that game is tossed aside from Square Enix like it's freaking Gumby, so go play this game, you will not regret it one bit. Those you can argue are built to suit a more casual experience that can make a person want to try out the genre further and fully expand their horizons. But man oh man, does that not work by the end of it when you see idiots time and time again state the claim that JRPGs are stupid and their combat is outdated because instead of listening to your one friend telling you to play one easygoing RPG like Pokemon or Paper Mario first before diving into a game like Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, you decide to go the other direction instead, and before long you're one of those idiots now on Twitter being Well, being Twitter. Yeah, I don't think Twitter anytime soon will get some good reputation, I'll be honest. And from here is where we get the notion of JRPGs are outdated with their turn-based mechanics start to shine the most, and why the purpose of this video is honestly to stay away from that approach as best as possible and to bring everyone together and have a better understanding of what JRPGs are built upon in terms of their premise of utilizing turn-based gameplay and combat. And also give people some better recommendations of RPGs to try out and kind of ease your way into the genre a bit more and not make the same mistake twice. Look guys, it's not that hard to do basic reading comprehension and basic math skills. Like, you guys absolutely got this. You graduated school, right? Right? In fact, just to get this out of the way first, it is important to understand what a game is doing in terms of its stylistic approach and gameplay mechanics in order to properly apply the term outdated. While yes, turn-based RPGs have been a thing since the days of the NES, they have evolved in numerous ways by enhancing the quality of life and ability to pursue its combat and gameplay mechanics to your own preferences. Current JRPGs of today ensure to do just that to allow newcomers popping their RPG cherries a better way of understanding how these games function in terms of their style, and that's what turn-based RPGs are the most. They are a stylistic approach to a formula that allows more participation to the player than ever before without the needless heavy reliance on QTEs and cinematic cutscenes that most modern games of today rely on to get a good rating or two on Metacritic. And don't get me started with these kind of games, alright? Because truth be told, that's an entirely different rabbit hole I do not want to go on a deep dive on at this very moment in time. Games like Persona 5, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Octopath Traveler, and Dragon Quest XI are best examples of providing art style as a substance to this 35-year-old video game formula in recent memory, and why I personally believe they are best bet to start out the turn-based gameplay mechanics. They offer a level of casualness to what is considered a very hard franchise to get into, and they like to stand out from the crowd by using what they know best from previous games and amplifying them to the 11th degree. Okay, maybe in the case of Yakuza Like a Dragon, it's basically an outlier when you look back at the rest of the Yakuza series, but that's neither here nor there, let's be real. But as already mentioned, these games provide a foundation of turn-based mechanics while sticking to their own original identities to ensure a new playing experience, especially with how Persona 5 nowadays is known as the one JRPG that no one seems to forget. You see that now with the UI function being all over your face in menu design and combat, the dungeon crawling aspects being very high stakes, high reward, and the dialogue being mild in terms of having voice acting to help out and understand the situation more or less as you progress onwards with the story. Hell, to give even more spotlight to Persona 5, I like how the combat also balances a lot of action-based mechanics alongside its turn-based formula that allows for a level of both difficulty and understanding of what to do next without so much losing the momentum. There are more options from the start of the game to know how and what you plan to deal with each encounter or boss fight, and that is what makes JRPGs so good in terms of their gameplay structures. They don't ask you to mash the same button over and over again and then dodge and weave your opponents as you progress. Callisto Protocol! But rather, what can the next move you end up choosing do to increase your chances of winning or losing, and if so, how can I learn so I don't screw up the next encounter or boss fight, and what additional help can be provided to bring me back on my feet and continue onwards with the journey. And so for those that have made it this far into the video, let me simplify it down to this. RPGs at the end of the day teach you how to use your freaking head, and if you can't use your head, then, well, And I think it's from here that a lot of people tend to not really understand the nature of the turn-based combat structure and think that because they can't use the same moves over and over again, then the game ends up being bad and deserves a complete overhaul. Which, mind you, that's a very stupid claim to make. It's like saying visual novels are dumb to play because of the lack of control you get from them, and okay, well, that's a bad example, never mind. My point being is that with turn-based RPGs, you can't say that these games are outdated because they're not to everyone's taste, or rather because you yourself don't want to spend hours and hours learning mechanics that, once you do end up learning them, can actually make the game rather easier to progress and more enjoyable to perform as time goes on. These games encourage the ability of critical thinking that encompasses a large playtime session filled with wacky characters and world building, as well as just something to take some time into and explore and dive in, which is all thanks to that party member system these games have as well. Not only are you learning to use your head in turn-based RPGs, but with the way the game is structured, this also leaves the possibilities of storytelling to take a more creative route. The more you progress through the game and its story, the more room for possibilities that you get to encounter with each new character introduced that suddenly joins you on the journey as well, allowing more options to utilize and more ways to get the job done in terms of combat. The older Final Fantasy games as well as Chrono Trigger are best cases in this scenario, where they know full well you're in for the ride of your life and they want you to be more like a chess player, making moves that allows that victory to have a sweet feeling of accomplishment. And to be quite honest, that's where I enjoy the combat of turn-based RPGs the most. They ultimately give this satisfaction of knowing that you made the right plays and called the right judgment against a tough AI or two, and that alone feels rewarding when you see how strong your party becomes throughout the course of the game and what additional side content the game offers to really test out your tactician skills. Turn-based RPGs kind of remind you that it's never about the destination you're heading, but rather the journey and the people you meet along the way. And that's a very important life lesson not many people know. The best case scenario with this mentality is of course when you play a good old Pokemon game, the one true turn-based RPG that lots of people enjoy regardless of how much they throw this take or not. You catch, train, and level up Pokemon by giving them new moves and items to work around with what they know best with their overall stats, and you get to explore and experience a whole new adventure each and every time. With the new games being Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet now taking the charge of leading the Pokemon games to new directions, you see this attitude of turn-based RPG mechanics more and more as they add on to the difficulty and make sure that you now have more to work with. Be it new moves, gimmicks, and abilities in each generation, and new characters to interact and also fight against, all showcase qualities that makes turn-based combat and RPGs so damn unique. It's you who is in charge of what's going to happen, and not so much if you're pulling the right inputs to the controller to give you the actions you need. You just take a quick breather to see what's in front of you and go through the motions from there. To bring in my personal experiences with these games, well, besides being good Pokemon games, they do provide a stronger presence in the turn-based mechanics that allows players to want to understand the realm of what new Pokemon is out there to offer. And if that's not something cool, then honestly, I don't know what you did in your birthday parties when you were opening those surprise birthday presents, I'm just saying. And please keep that in your pants. But that experience is what I think brings turn-based RPGs tremendous value in the end, as they're not so much about how much shit can be thrown at you at all times to expect you to learn and adapt quickly, or how well budgeted are our cutscenes to give you a movie-like experience with these QTEs, but rather how far away can you set yourself apart from the scene and look at things from what is happening at that moment, just so you can then analyze and know what to do next. And if that's not a life lesson to learn in the end, then honestly you really are an idiot. But note that I say that with so much love in my heart. I mean, come on, I love you guys, and I don't want to sugarcoat things, you know? I mean, look at what I had to say about Sonic Frontiers, like way back when. And that video still bites me in the ass to this very day. Of course, at the end of the day, the turn-based mechanics are indeed not for everybody. That much has been clear and true throughout the course of this video. But the conversation of saying that these games are outdated shouldn't even be a hot take at most. It's just a matter of preference, and if you like or don't like turn-based RPGs, then good on you. You enjoy what you like at the end of the day, but just don't try and claim a superiority complex whether you think you're presenting good examples to the table to say that reading and thinking ahead isn't fun, especially when you consider the enormous playtime value you get from these games in terms of exploration, story, and side content. These are all good games to try out, and it is a shame to have these grand adventures be demoted to outdated when we all know full well that this genre of games are constantly evolving from one another and bringing new ways to make the turn-based structure different, entertaining, and more innovative by the end of it. But of course, like all genres, there are those bad apples that I can agree with that breaks the turn-based quality into two. But you should stress that those are nothing but bad apples at the end of the day. Just because you played Soul Hackers 2 doesn't mean all turn-based RPGs are terrible experiences, or simply because you decided to play a Fire Emblem game and got bored of the waifu chess pieces it has doesn't make it any less fun or janky. It's all about how much time you're putting into learning the gameplay structure and appreciating the stylistic game design choices they have for these games. Plus, let's be real here folks, the real games that are outdated are definitely first-person shooters, because I don't think I've ever seen a game post COD Modern Warfare 1 and Halo 3 be as revolutionizing as it is janky and glitchy. But hey man, that's just a preference, am I right? No, but seriously, just saying, if you want to stake the claims of turn-based RPGs actually being outdated, then use games within the genre to fix your narrative a bit better. Don't just compare apples to broccoli here, especially with how janky Warzone 2.0 has been. Just ask Dr. Disrespect that question. But to bring it all back now, the real genuine problem that I do find with RPGs, and to at least match it with the title that I've made here, I don't want to actually clickbait you guys, but the real problem that I find with RPGs and turn-based ones at that is that not many people at the end of the day want to try them out. And listen, I can understand everybody plays Pokemon. That is like the one turn-based RPG everybody plays. But I mean, there's so many other games out there for you to try out. Octopath Traveler, the early Final Fantasy games. Now that we have the Pixel remaster coming in on the Nintendo Switch and PS4, but we've been having it on Steam for, I guess, almost a year now. The Dragon Quest games, the Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Like, there's so many array of games to try out that have that turn-based RPG mechanics that honestly, it would be remiss if not to try them out. And it is important to try out different genres and see what you like at the end of the day. And hey, if you do happen to like those RPGs, then good on you. And you happen to not like them at the end of the day, then just don't be an idiot and bash on these games and calling them outdated simply because you didn't have a good time with them in the first place. But yeah, honestly, that's all I have to say. And to kind of improvise a little bit here, 2022 is almost closing in hot, and I have a lot of plans ahead of time. I hope you guys are enjoying the content at that, and I hope you enjoyed this one in particular. And if you are a fan of the turn-based RPGs, or just RPGs in general, comment your favorite one down below. I want to see what your favorites are and which ones I've missed out and which ones I hope to play down the line and maybe cover into a full-fledged video at sometime in the near future. But hey, that's why we have a comment section for the reason, because I am done. I have other things to do. I have other shit to take care of. I love you all to 120 as always. Stay sexy and safe out there. Be awesome. Peace out and take care. And for those out there that haven't tried an RPG title yet, go do it!